his statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Greece.
Thank you, Mr. President. We thank also Assistant Secretary General Ms. Pobi for her important update on the situation in the country, as well as Mr. Owino, Interim Chairperson of RJ-MEC, and Mr. Mutiga of the ICG for the briefings. I also welcome the representative of South Sudan to the Chamber. Mr. President, Greece shares the deep concern expressed by the Secretary General in his latest report, as well as by the briefers today, over the deteriorating situation in South Sudan. As we have heard, there is now an urgent need to return to a ceasefire, de-escalation and dialogue between the parties in order to prevent the crisis escalating from the subcommunal to the national and regional level. Allow me to highlight 3 points. First, we stress that the 2018 revitalized peace agreement represents the only viable political framework for achieving sustainable and lasting peace in the country. Greece calls on all parties to urgently recommit to it fully, reinvigorate its mechanisms, and resume the political transition as agreed without delay. We encourage, particularly, the South Sudanese leadership to build upon the gains achieved and make progress on transitional justice, the constitutional process, and elections preparation. A swift end to the continued house detention of key political figures, including First Vice President Riek Machar, will be of paramount importance, and we encourage the authorities to take the necessary steps towards this end. Moreover, expanding the political and civic space in the country and respect for all political leaders and forces will create trust and prove the best way for the further implementation of the peace agreement. Mr. President, we commend and support the active role of IGAD and that of the African Union in their engagement and mediation efforts, and we stand ready to support them also in this Council. Echoing the joint Climate, Peace and Security Pledges statement that was delivered before the start of our meeting, we highlight the devastating impact of climate-induced flooding as an additional factor of concern, exacerbating fragile economic and social conditions in the country. Secondly, stability in South Sudan is inseparable from the overall stability of the region, and the spillover of the Sudanese crisis is weighing heavily on the domestic security situation. The forced return of hundreds of thousands of South Sudanese refugees who fled during the civil war of the last decade to Sudan is creating a major humanitarian crisis as these populations settle into communities that remain fragile, under-resourced, and often without direct access to humanitarian aid. We express, therefore, our strong support to initiatives mobilizing the reception, reintegration, and sustainable livelihood programs for returnees in order to mitigate humanitarian risks and social instability. Supporting local, youth-focused initiatives with adequate funding is critical in addressing violence at the local level. Thirdly, the situation of children in South Sudan is particularly concerning. We note the fact that over 2.3 million children under 5 are now at risk of acute malnutrition. At the same time, UNMISS has documented and verified numerous new cases of grave violations against children in several states of the country, committed by all parties of the conflict. We join, therefore, those who call upon the government to strengthen preventive measures in hotspot areas to protect children's rights and well-being. Mr. President, Greece reaffirms its steadfast support to the work of SRSG HESOM and the presence of UNMISS in the country. Its role in facilitating the peace process, human rights monitoring, as well as enabling humanitarian access, in accordance with its mandate, remains irreplaceable. Ensuring the safety and security of the mission's personnel and their ability to access areas across the country to carry out their mandated tasks effectively are vital and must be respected. We stand ready to engage with fellow Council members on initiatives that will prevent South Sudan from sliding back into another cycle of civil unrest and that will help revitalize the peace process. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Greece for his statement.